how do you overcome all of the obstacles that seem to be put in place to really get in the way of us achieving those dreams? Mohammed Harib is going to help explain how.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. My father is here today, and he'll not be happy to see my name spelled as H-A-R-E-E-B. So it's H-A-R-I-B. Assalamu alaikum. Let me just say that it's an honor to be standing here today, to be talking here today. I've spent the last few days thinking about what I will be talking about. And since my story or the journey that I took was, it was at least 45 minutes of talk. You have to cry, you have to laugh, you have to do many things. I have 18 minutes, so I can't say that story. So I kept thinking, what will I say? I kept, not thinking about anything. And I kept asking myself, what made me so special? What actually makes me special? I'm not... as a kid, I grew up being a normal kid. I was not a genius or anything. I had below average high school grades. I was not the whiz kid. Same thing with university. At one stage, I was a university dropout. And I studied in Boston at Northeastern University. And we had almost 150 students there. And all of them, from the UAE, basically. And 90% of them were taking either business or engineering. And I was the only guy who was studying general arts and animation. And I'm sure many of my friends who were there back then, they were like, poor Mohammed, he'll be like... And seriously, because you can't help but think that. Look back in 1996, when I was in the States, the UAE, or Dubai in particular, did not have any creative kind of industries. We had one governmental TV station, we had one governmental radio station, and we had one governmental newspaper. And if you are a designer, that's a female-only major here. So you might as well be a cook or a fashion designer. It's the same thing. So for me, to be the only general art and animation major was not only a challenge from a design point, but also from a psychological and mental point. And then I came back and the one thing I did not want to be, and I figured this really early when I was in university, I did not want to become a CEO. That's for sure. Everybody I spoke with back then wanted to be a CEO. Their fathers were CEOs. They want to be a CEO. Their brothers are CEOs. And Dubai is CEO city. We are in a city within a city, actually. We are in Dubai Media City, and next to it is, Dubai Internet City. And just for the sake of name change, we'll call it Knowledge Village. But I'm sure Knowledge Village has a mayor. So, and we just have, various CEOs and names for CEOs. And honestly, I find CEOs to be grumpy. They feel, they have the best offices, and they always feel grumpy. Yes, what do you want? I don't have time for you, and they always make you feel that you are really, in need of them. Of course, not all CEOs are like that, especially my sponsors. They're actually very good. They're the best CEOs. And I worked, and the thing is, when you graduate and you're an art student, you really don't have any options. You can go to any governmental entity and become a designer. And by designer, somebody who knows how to use Photoshop. That's design, not the whole big thing that we saw in previous presentations. And, that's what I ended up doing. I joined Dubai Media City, and I became a designer. They gave me different names, but in the end, I was a designer. I had my blimps of creativity, but I saw the roof. I could not go beyond. While I was in the States and studying animation, I I was asked to create a superhero character based from my culture. And I grew up in a land full of superheroes, like Alibaba, Salahuddin, all of these. But all of these superheroes were dead or fictional. So I did not have anybody that relates to me right now. And to be honest with you, I saw a superhero in my grandmother. Back in the time, back in the day where the UAE had no oil, we were not an oil-based economy. We were a pearl-based economy, actually. So our grandfather used to go on pearl diving trips for 7 months, and we had a constant financial crisis, and the heat was, we had no AC, nothing. It was really, really a terrible landscape to be living in. And the female figure used to teach the kids. She used to work for a living. She used to raise the kids, and I'm talking 7 and 8 children. And she used to pull them all together while the male figure was diving for pearls and fighting the sharks off. We don't have sharks in these seas, so I don't know where that came from. But after we had the media push, and Dubai became Dubai, because we are a male-dominant society, we decided to focus on the fathers, and we decided to focus on what made them so great, and we forgot the female figure. And I thought it's only fitting that I commemorate and archive the grandmothers. And if grandmothers can be superheroes, anybody can. So I had this idea of Freak, which is the story of 4 old grandmothers living in a secluded neighborhood in modern-day Dubai. Some of you heard this for the 1,000th time now. So, but the whole concept of it was such a new thing. My thinking and my passion for it was such a new thing. And to achieve what I wanted to achieve, I had to go through, guess what? CEOs. I had to go through CEOs. I had to convince CEOs. I had to actually beg CEOs. I was professional in the art of begging. So that's something I learned as a trait afterwards. It was so hard. You can't imagine how hard it was, because I think now the path is kind of paved for entrepreneurs to come in. But back then, in 2003, when you go to a funding body, and speak to them and say, hey, I want to do a cartoon. They go, you want to do what? And they say, you want to do it for how much? And basically, even the broadcaster, the only place you would think that they would think that this is a great idea, they said, you want to do what? And you want to do it for how much? So it was not easy. It was not easy. And I learned that if I give up, then I've shattered my dreams. I've shattered many people's dreams. I was branded as a local. And many people here would think, because there are 2 rows, some people will think that, oh, locals, you have them, have things cut up for you, you have an easy life. And then, oh, you are a local. So you can, you don't do anything. You can't achieve anything. So I had to achieve something, because I was sick and tired of that mentality, especially from locals who thought I was a local. And that was hard. Anyway, with SME or the funding body I had, I thank them because they really put obstacles in front of me. I was an artist, and artists usually complain. They like to complain, and we're like big drama victims, and we say that nobody cares about us, nobody understands art, nobody understands media, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and I keep saying this in my university lectures whenever I go. It's us who victimize ourselves. We're stronger than what many people think we are. And in basically 3 years' time, I managed to get this project off the ground. And by doing so, it was a cultural phenomenon. It was a huge cultural phenomenon. And it was not because it was a good concept or a funny concept or something that people enjoyed. I've discovered that when I told my story, many people after me came to me and said, Mohammed, because of you, or because of what you could have done, you gave me an inspiration, you gave me hope that I can do something. Not just that. Also, CEOs, the CEOs said, oh, that's a great idea, actually. Let's do more cartoons. And I constantly looked for what made me special. What makes me special, I thought, was not that I was the first person who did animation commercially in this region. No. I always tried to do something new. So I started off doing Freak, which is an animated series, 3D, blah, blah, blah. It was the #1 nominated show. I did season 2. It was the #1 nominated show. I did season 3. It was one of the 3 nominated shows. But then I got bored. I was like, this is what I'll end up doing, just taking and repackaging and putting again and taking. And although the sponsors were lined up, and I was making money, but that's not what I wanted to do. And the thing about media is they take you, they squeeze every inch of juice of creativity you have, and then they throw you and in with the new guy. So you need to know when to stop. And in 2009, I decided to stop. Because if I did not burn myself, somebody else will burn me. And I said, let me explore more opportunities. And that stop enabled me to work on a beautiful project, which is the largest ever theatrical production in Arabia, which was called Freak Folklore. I wanted to preserve, I wanted to show my culture in a very beautiful theatrical production, very similar to the Cirque du Soleil, to the Lion Kings, because we as Arabs, we are not a big fan of theater, unless it's comedy or Egyptian or something like that. So I wanted to really preserve, I really wanted to preserve my culture and show it to the world. And that enabled me to do so, to do something like that. And also in 2009, I was able to create something that is a totally unique show, and it's about a game quiz show. It's not about what I created, and it's not about what I will create. I kind of finally found my mission here. It's to constantly try new things, and to constantly jump and really open new doors. If I manage to do a cartoon, there are so many people after me that came who are doing a better job at cartoons at the moment. But I helped open the door and broke that door for everybody to come in. And the same thing happened to theater. And the same thing is happening with other projects. So that's I thought to myself, you know what? That is exactly what made me special. And that's exactly why I don't want to be a CEO. Unfortunately, I'm a chairman now, for lack of a better, wording for me. But inspiration, especially for people who live here, people who are local, people who grew up here, people who think, you know what? I really can't, do anything. These CEOs are blocking my view. These CEOs are blocking my vision. I started in 2003 with a sketch on paper. You can't get any easier than this. A sketch on paper, and I walked into SME and I said, hey, I want to do this cartoon. I want to do this dream. And 3 years later, and I'll tell you something, my salary was like 7,000 dirhams a month. And in 4 years, my salary kind of multiplied that by 10, plus the assets, plus everything that I have. Not created from my father's wealth, not created from the government backing, it's created purely from a sketch on paper. And I'm sure if I could create something from a sketch on paper, if I can create something from a sketch on paper, you guys can create more amazing things, especially that I know that most of you here are more talented than me, more creative than me, more determined than me. The path to your success actually is now more paved than the one I took, because I really had to jump obstacles. I really, for 3 years, beg for a living. I don't know if I took my 18 minutes, but I think that's all I have to say. So thank you very much.